Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. We have a very sweet little project today. I think we'll call it a craft bag, but it would be a really cute bag for a little girl. This is it here. We've got a pocket on the inside. I've put a little snap closure on the front here, so the pocket goes across the entire width of the bag. Another one on the other side. There are no zips today. And we've got a magnetic closure at the top. If you don't like those, you can use Velcro. And then we have a couple of pockets on the inside as well. Fully lined, no bindings, because we all know I don't like using bindings. And it's a very cute little bag. Come along and let's make this together. Let's have a look at what we need today. I'll be putting the measurements up in a moment. We've got a long piece for the outer bag. I have fussy cut this piece of fabric so that I can have my stripes nice and straight. Let's hope that's worked out. For the lining, I've got this bright yellow and a couple of strips that will be used for bands on the top of the lining, and that will be in the same fabric as your outer fabric. I've got two pieces for the handles. We'll be making those today. And then on the inside of the bag, I've got a couple of fabric pieces for pockets. We want two of those. I'll be putting a magnetic closure on the top of the bag as well. If you don't have access to these, you can use Velcro. You can just use a button and sew that together as well. Have a button and a loop. This is an iron-on hemming tape. It's a Vilene product. It's fusible on both sides. So what you do is sandwich it in between two layers of fabric. It fuses it together. I'm going to be using this for the handles and also the folds that I do in the bag. It's optional. You don't have to use anything at all, or you can cut up some iron-on interfacing in narrow strips and use that as well. So that's what I'm going to use for my handles. I'll be using a cotton iron-on interfacing for the pockets. And for the stabilizer for the outside of the bag, I haven't yet decided if I want to go with something stiff like this Peltex, or if I'm just going to use an iron-on palin, a lightweight palin like this one. Haven't decided that yet, but the sizing for that will be the same regardless. Here's all the material that you're going to need. Okay, let's make a start. So I guess the easiest thing to start with will be the pockets and the handles. For the handles, we're going to fold the raw edges into the center and then fold that in again. And that will be the width of your handle. What I'm going to do on the inside, I'll run two strips of this hemming tape across those center folds and then fold that fabric over, fold it back over again, and just iron that in place. Afterward, we'll go and sew down both long edges. I'll do that for both of them. If you don't have this, you can just use any kind of fusible fleece or whatever stabilizer you like. I'll set those aside and I'll iron those in a moment. We'll take our pocket pieces. Our pocket pieces are 7 by 10 inches. I'm going to fold that in half and mark a crease. And for the moment, I'm just going to fold that in half with the wrong sides facing. And then I want to grab my iron-on interfacing and place that to one side of the pocket, line it up on the fold, place that inside. That one can be ironed, and I'll do the same with this one. So I will take these over to the iron and get that sorted, and I'll be right back. So I've got the stabilizer on the inside of my handles. That's ready to go to the machine, and we're going to sew down both long edges. The pocket piece has been stabilized. Open that out and then fold the fabric so that you've got right sides together. We'll take these two to the machine and sew from here around to here, leave an opening for turning through. We'll do that for both of those. We have our outer fabric, so this is the really long piece here. What we're going to do is fold that in half, mark the center, And here we have the centre markings right here. From that centre, we're going to measure out 6 inches or 15 centimetres. From the centre here, I'll make a mark at the 6 inches, and I'll do that on the other side. So what I've got here, you can see the pin marks here. This is the centre of the fabric, and out from the centre we've measured 15 centimetres or 6 inches. Turn your fabric around, and what we need to do here is fold the end of the fabric up to these marks we've made here, and then give that a really good press. So we want to set a crease. This is going to form the top edge of our pocket, and we're going to be top stitching along this edge here. Turn the fabric around, and at the other end you'll do the same thing. So just bring the fabric across to that 6-inch line that we've marked and give that a really good press as well. Because I'm top stitching this, the fabric that I'm using is a very lightweight cotton, I want to give this a little bit more stability. So once I've marked my crease here, I'm going to use a piece of interfacing or some kind of stabiliser. And once again, I'm going to be using this hemming tape. Just cut a couple of pieces to length, and I'm going to place this right on the edge of that fold. Then I'll fold that fabric piece back over again, and I'll fuse that in place. That's going to give me a nice crisp edge. It'll just help keep that fabric sitting nicely for the top edge of the pocket. Clip that together. And for the other side, I'll put a strip in here as well. I'll go and give those two edges a quick press, and I'll be right back. So that's given me a nice crisp edge along the top here. And when you bring the fabric out, you can see that little pleat is folded over. So the hemming tape has fused those two pieces of fabric together. We're going to take this to the machine as well now, and we'll sew along those two edges there. We'll top stitch the main fabric first. And then we'll do the handles. I like to start with the open side first. And put the other one through straight after. Then go back to the beginning and we'll do the other side of the handle. And we'll sew up those pockets. Start at the fold. I'm using the edge of the stabiliser as my stitching guide. Back stitch here. Leave a small opening. Back stitch here. Repeat for the other one. We can trim the corners. Turn your pockets the right way out, poke your corners out, and then we're going to top stitch just the top edge of the fold on both of them. Lay that down nice and flat and we can top stitch. And then you can give your pockets a good press and press those raw edges under. All right, we can set aside the handles for a moment and the pockets. The opening at the bottom we will worry about later. Let's take this outer piece of fabric, and we've top stitched just the very top edge of both sides of the fabric. That will become the top edge of our pockets on the outside of the bag. Open the fabric out At this end here, we're going to measure 2 inches or 5 centimetres, and this top stitched edge here will be brought up to that mark we've made, and clip the edges together. Smooth that fabric down and secure the bottom edge of the pocket, and there's our pocket. This end we're going to do the same, so we can turn that around. Mark your 2 inches or 5 centimetres and line that up as well. Now we have both pockets ready. Flip it over and you'll see the folds in the fabric underneath here. What we want to do is take this over to the machine and just sew along here and over here as well. Let's go and do that now. All we're doing is securing these folds down. You don't need your 1 centimetre seam allowance. It's just a narrow stitch right along the edge. I'll start at the top of the fold and finish at the bottom of the fold and go to the next one. Then I can turn this around and repeat on the other side. Alright, with this piece of fabric ready, we can stabilise it. I've decided rather than using the stiff Peltex, I'm just going to use the lightweight fusible Palin or Parlan. I'll centre that over the fabric and the folds, and I'll fuse this to the back of our outer piece of fabric. Now, I don't have anybody to share my excitement with, so you guys are going to have to suffer for it. But these are the pockets in here, and I'm pretty pleased with how this fabric has lined up. It did have a little bit of shrinkage, so it has curled just a fraction, but I'm really pleased with how my stripes have lined up. I'm very chuffed. Okay, let's get on with it. Take our lining piece. This one's 12 by 13¼ inches or 30 by 34 centimetres. And our 2 bands, these are matching the front fabric, with right side of your fabric faced up, right side of your band faced down. Line those up, stitch it together down the side. Once you've done that, flip it over, open out that fabric. We're going to top stitch, but when we top stitch, I want the seam to go toward the yellow. Not sure why, I just do. Let's take that to the machine. Now from here, we've got a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Flip it around. I'll go and press this band with that seam facing the yellow. Now this top stitching doesn't need to be done at all, it's purely decorative, but I feel like I want it. And same on the other side. Alright, that's the lining piece prepared. Now this lining piece should be the same size as the outer fabric or just slightly smaller. It's probably about 1/4 inch shorter. That's fine. Linings have a tendency to be a little bit baggy. That's perfectly okay. We'll grab our 2 pocket pieces now. Fold this piece in half and mark the centre across the yellow there. Fold the pockets in half as well. Find the centre of those. So we've got our centre crease here, and with your centre fold in the pocket, line that up just on the top edge of that yellow there and across the centre. So we want this pocket just sitting at the very top edge of the yellow. You'll have your opening along here. We're going to sew down here, across and up. That will close up the opening, and we'll do the same for this pocket with the opening here. That's going to be faced down toward the centre, and we'll sew those in place. So straight down here, along there and up again. Repeat for this side. I'll secure the top edge really well. And I'll repeat for the other pocket. All right, those pockets are looking good. Set this aside for a moment. Take your outer fabric and your handles. Let's fold this piece in half and we'll mark the center. And we're going to place our handles 5 centimeters or 2 inches from the center. Keep the handles nice and flat as you come around. Flip the fabric around and we'll do the same here. I'll quickly go and sew both those handles in place now. Okay, the handles are ready. We can set that aside for a moment. On the lining, I want to place a magnetic closure. If you don't have those, you can put a piece of Velcro instead. I keep offcuts of Pellin or stabilizer. First thing I'm going to do is fuse a little piece of stabilizer onto the back here, and I'll do the same onto the back on this side as well. All right, I've got a small square of stabilizer on the back there. Let's find the center again, which is right here, and we want to place one of our closures over here. I'll line up the center of my washer 1/2 inch or 1.5 centimeters from the top edge of the pocket, and I'll make a couple of marks in here, and that will be where the prongs go for my magnetic snap. I've gone and marked the position of the washers, and to open up the fabric safely without accidentally ripping through your fabric, bring your seam ripper in at the bottom of the mark you've made, bring the point through, and bring that point back up into the fabric at the top of the mark that you've made. So you can see the seam ripper has gone in at the bottom, come out at the top, and when I rip now, it rips away from the fabric and I don't accidentally slice on through. So once again, in at the bottom, in at the top, and slice. Take your snap and put the prongs through. Grab your washer, place it on top. Some people like to push their prongs in, others like to push them out. I guess my preference is pushing them out. Once that's done, I'll take another piece of stabilizer and place that over the top here, and I'll fuse that in place. Now, this was a suggestion given to me by a viewer. I don't remember your name, I apologize for that. What can happen if you don't have anything behind your fabric here, it's sitting up against your outer fabric and it can wear through. So I thought that was a really good tip. Place another piece of stabilizer over the top. If you can't fuse it, use some double-sided tape or sew it in place. I'll iron that in place shortly. And on the other side, we'll do the same thing. We'll just go in and out and rip. And another piece of stabilizer on there, and I will go and fuse that together now. All right, so that's protected any fabric from wearing out from any sharp bits of the metal. Let's take our lining fabric and have that faced up. Grab your outer fabric and we can flip this over and line it up with your lining and pin or clip the short edges together. All right, let's go and sew the 2 short edges in place, and then we can work on the side seam. 1 centimeter seam allowance again. Go around to the other end and repeat. Now we can separate the outer fabric and the lining. We've got the band connected to the lining here and the seam at the top. It's this seam here that we want to line up. And we'll line up this side as well. Okay, we're nearly done. I've got the top edges lined up. Clip the edges together on the sides. We need to leave an opening on one side of the lining, so along here I'm just going to leave an opening of about 3 or 4 fingers width. I usually prefer to start sewing at the top intersection, and that's what I will do. I'll sew along from here, come down, and then I'll come back and start from here and go down again. Same again here. That way it reinforces the top section, and I can also start with my needle down and make sure that the fabric doesn't shift as I'm sewing. This is the top edge of the fabric. I've placed my needle down and I can sew to the end. Flip it upside down, go back to the top, and I can sew all the way down. Once I've come past the section where the band is, anywhere below there I'm going to leave an opening, so I'll do that about here, backstitch, move on forward and backstitch here, go to the other side, place my needle down into the fabric and then sew. The last thing we need to do is create some boxed corners. From the stitching line we're going to measure 3 centimeters or 1¼ inches, and from the fold line we'll do the same. Repeat for all 4 corners of your bag. And remember to take the measurement from the stitching line, not from the raw edge. If you feel you need to, you can make the same markings on the other side of your fabric. And then what we can do is open out the fabric here, find the corner of the square, pinch that together, find the corner on the other side, and you should have a nice straight line here. Pin that in place and sew straight across the line. And then repeat for the other corners. Let's go and sew straight across those lines we've marked. Then our bag's finished. All right, we can trim off our corners now. Just cut them about 1/4 inch or so from the stitching line. You don't have to cut them off if you prefer to leave them. We can find the opening, turn this the right way around, poke out all your corners, make it look nice and neat, and once you're happy with all of that, we can close up the opening on the side. Pinch the edges together here and sew straight across here. I'll go and do that now. That's been closed up. I'm going to put all the bits where they belong now. And here's me thinking the bag was finished, but we still have to do the top stitching. All right, the bag's done except for the top stitching. I've lined up the top edge of the fabric so that the seam is sitting nice and evenly all the way around the top. What we can do now is top stitch all the way around. Let's go do that. So I will start on the side seam. And there we go, we have finished our bag. How adorable is that? We've got our pocket on the front here and on the back. Now, I do confess I actually forgot a step. I would have liked to have stitched down the center of the pocket on both sides. I forgot to do that. So once you do those folds, you can go ahead and do that. but there's an easy fix for that. I'm just going to put a little plastic snap there. So I've got these things here. Find the centre between the handles, make a little mark and poke a hole through the pocket with my awl, and I will also poke a hole through the bag fabric coming through on the other side where the pocket is. I'll pop a cap on one side and then I'll grab the cap and bring that through from the inside. Grab the other bit and clamp that shut, and that's fixed that. And somehow I've got a mark on my fabric. Turn it around and I'll place another snap in the centre of the handles on the pocket. I bring that all through the pocket, right through to the inside of the bag and coming out just in between the pocket layer there. Back to the inside of the bag. Close up your magnetic closure at the top here. You've got a little snaps at the front there, and nobody will ever know that I forgot to stitch it up. So how adorable is this? Admittedly, the fabric helps. It's such a beautiful fabric. I've been wanting to use this fabric for a little while now, and I think this bag is absolutely perfect for it. It's only a small bag, but we've got lots of space in there. We've got a couple of good-sized pockets in there as well, and then you've got your big pockets on the outside, back and front. I think it's a very cute little bag. Now, if you wanted to, because there's always something you can do if you wanted to, from the boxed corner at the bottom here, do a row of top stitching on the corner and give that a little bit more structure. Then that will give you a couple of little pen pockets on the side there. But I think the bag's perfectly fine like this. I think this one actually could become quite a nice nappy bag or a diaper bag if it was scaled up a little bit. What do you think? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm not going to sew this for the shop. I just wanted something to sew today. I thought this one would be fun. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.